So this student is actually rather far along and has a question about this specific happening. Remember. So he doesn't like that sound. I don't think it's an issue. This little thing here. So what that is it's just the false or the real folds, the vocal folds just coming together really quickly. So we can mimic that in our lower range. So this is called a glottal. Right? So there are two things I'm doing here. I'm doing an aspirate abrupt, which means I'm putting enough air through that my vocal folds will come together pretty much immediately. And then here's, so I'm doing an aspirate into that. And here I'm starting with my folds closed and then just kind of making them sound. And this is a glottal, is what that's called. So if you don't like the sound of a glottal, you should know what a glottal is, and then just don't do it. But in order to make a glottal, hold your breath, and then start singing. Right? So that's a glottal. If you don't like that, you can do what's called a gradual onset. So same thing, kind of hold your breath, just to feel what it's like to have those vocal folds closed initially. So by keeping them closed and then really softly starting to move them, you see how gradual that is? So if you want something to sound a little bit more smooth, that's what you want to do. And you can also do an aspirate gradual, which is just going to be that there's air before that there's this. So, these are just a bunch of different sounds. And if you don't like one, you just know what it is, and then you can kind of switch them out. Okay, this video, or this second part of the video, is going to be dedicated to other sounds. So this is, this individual is trying to get, like, their high notes together. Yeah! So remember we were talking about abrupts, glottals, and aspirate abrupts? Yeah! You hear that moment? This is the moment the folds come together. Yeah! So some of you might say that this is falsetto. Unfortunately, falsetto is like the F word. Falsetto is not bad, but it's also hard to pinpoint when we, like, is it going to be mixed voice? Are we going to call this falsetto? Is this mixed voice? Are we going to call this, like, the vocal folds are not always together, right? When we mix, what we're doing is we're actually letting some air out, right? And so we're opening the vocal folds. There's still a bit of them touching, right? But you have this entire range of motion, right? So what I would call falsetto is boom. None of the voice, no vocal fold contact at all. Boom. Completely breathy, flute-like. That's what I would call falsetto, right? But we should qualify what we mean by what, right? You can disagree with me, but I just need something to call, folds flipped open all the way, right? So I would call this a very light mix. There's very little vocal fold closure, but we're still getting the sound that happens when the folds come together. Yeah! That, right? So that is mixed. It is a little flat. Barely. Yeah! So when it's just a hair flat like that, and it's barely even noticeable, but we would call that like being a cent or two flat. So like a 1/100th of a half step. And what that means, the way to fix that, is to kind of work on your vowels and breath. Very difficult to do at this range. I would recommend sliding up for the extremes. And let's go to this E flat here. Sounds like this person was just starting on it. So this is actually a sound that I use. That's how I go up further in my range. So this is from quite some time ago. I don't like to just like bust out higher notes like this, but this is F sharp 5. Something absurd like F sharp 5. If you actually pay attention to the quality, first of all, a little flat, just a touch. It is an sharp 5. So, but it being flat means there are things to work on. Second, listen to the amount of air leaking that's happening. Something absurd like F sharp 5. You can hear that hiss. So there's some closure, but there's quite a lot of air escaping, which means there's just too much air coming out. So the reason I bring this up is because we need to not fixate on the note itself, which is actually what this entire video is about. Not the one I'm recording, but the one I'm playing. We need to stop fixating on what note we're singing and what qualities are coming out of our mouth. So the fact that there's that airy hiss means there's too much air because the air is blowing the folds open. Third, like F sharp 5. So that's that. The tone is apt for metal, but maybe nothing else. But that's where the sliding into it happens, right? Like if I can be very gentle the higher I go, instead of lurching a bunch of air, that's going to come out better. So that's, I guess, the point of that. So these are some noises, right? These are some of the noises that you can make. What the consequences of those noises are. Yeah. So hope this was useful. Leave a question down below, or preferably join my Discord, because that's where I like to answer these questions.